Welcome to Living Truth. I'm Angela James. Together with John Usher, we invite you to dialogues designed to awaken you to truth, enlighten you to who you are, and to invite you to live a reality that you want. Good morning, everybody. It's Angela from angelajames.co.za, and I am with one of my favorite humans on the planet, brother from another mother, partner in work. When I say work crime, I mean I'm using the word crime loosely, but partners in crime in terms of the road and the journey that John and I have traveled singly and together over many years. John, welcome to our first direct access, which is part of what you're not inventing, but creating, and that kind of hook up with Conversations That Matter. So I'm really excited about where we are today. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. I think it's going to be a fun journey today,
I think
exploring
so.
the conversations that matter.
Yeah. And creating direct access to who we are. So it's really exciting times in the sense that John and I have been working separately and then kind of coming together and separately and coming together and now doing a lot more coming together in terms of bringing the different work that we've done complementary to one another. And I think that the thing that's really exciting for me is that what we're starting to see, and I'm kind of getting dizzy at looking at myself like that. Okay. But in seriousness, bringing together two components into a more unified offering in the sense that John embraces so beautifully the masculine, the divine masculine or sacred masculine, and mine is more intuitive, coming from the divine feminine. That being said, though, we both embody both energies. And it's really the joy for me in working with you, John, is the fact that I get to learn to awaken not just my divine feminine or be my divine feminine, but also to bring the sacred masculine within me into balance. So how did we arrive at direct access and Conversations That Matter? And before I kind of hand over to you, I just want to remind myself and those of you who've been a part of some of the Conversations That Matter before, is that started probably about 2 years ago, I think, where I recorded quite a few Conversations That Matter. In fact, it might have been a bit longer because we did all those interviews on responsible citizenship, and then I did Conversations That Matter with women last year. You and I have done a couple of conversations already on leadership, on your favorite subjects. And so as we've evolved and grown within our own right, shedding, for me, certainly this last year has been a year of incredible shedding, where I think we both, and certainly I can't speak for you, but certainly for me, had to go through my own journey in terms of shedding away that which was not truth. Okay, if I slow down, maybe I can get that out. But also starting to recover and reclaim what is truth for me. And so now in a position where I certainly feel authentic enough again to start opening up these conversations that matter. So John, direct access, tell us a little bit about that.
So at the moment, direct access is quite a new concept for me that I'm busy creating. Really new, couple of days. And in conjunction with you, obviously, Angela. So, just in terms of, I want to reciprocate in terms of that conversation. For me, discovering the sacred male energy in conjunction with the divine feminine, and how well you bring the intuitive into the structures and the processes. I like the structures and the processes. I want to convert everything into structures and processes. Makes it easy to duplicate. But what I have definitely learned from you over the last while is that we need that spark of inspiration. We need that awakening in terms of the energy, and making sure that it comes from the right place, go into the right place. So from my side, I just want to say to you, thank you for that. So the
Yeah.
direct access. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, for me, the joy in dancing with you is bringing in the manner in which you do bring in structure, and the manner in which you are so incredible in terms of creating replicatable processes structures. And so for those of you who are listening, or those of you who catch up with us later, we're going to be seeing a lot more of those processes as John and I carry on this, on what has been embarking on a new phase of our journey. I wouldn't say it's a new journey, but it certainly is a new phase of our journey. So back to you around direct access, because we're starting to see the two pieces coming together again.
Yeah, and it really is an expression of the new phase in that we have evolved very much in our own personal development quite separately. And I think for over the last couple of weeks, it's definitely the roads are converging, and that's been an awesome experience. And out of that is coming to direct access. And for me, my journey is about aligning our conversations, our inner voice, in such a way that it creates our external realities. Mind matter is my favorite subject of the whole world. Love it. And it's all about the conversations that happen inside our head. And I want to put a proviso there. I've had, people rack me over the knuckles and say, I don't have an inner voice. Well, do you have an inner picture? Or is it driven by emotions? Whatever the noise, whatever the clutter is on the inside, forcing you to do repeated patterns, that is the mind matter. And what
I
I've
think that,
realized,
as you talk about that, I think that anybody who says they don't have mind matter, whether it's verbal, whether it's feelings, whether it's sounds, doesn't matter. Anybody who says they don't have one is in complete denial. And I think that that's part and
yeah,
parcel of what we are focusing on in terms of conversations that matter and matter. I like that,
yes,
conversations that matter.
conversations that matter. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I think for a lot of people, the muttering is a habit, So I always ask, if you had to ask a fish, what is it like to breathe water? I think that fish is going to look at you and say, excuse me? What are you talking about? And it's the same with our mind matter. It's always often just a unconscious thing that happens automated, and that's its power, is the fact that it's automated, and it's a constant affirmation that is aligning our external reality to what's going on the inside, to our internal
Yep,
identities.
yep.
And the whole birth of direct access is now literally looking at where is that habit coming from, pick it up, recognize it. We're not going to pay homage to it or build a shrine to it. It's now about dissolving it and replacing it with something that gives you the
Mm.
life that you want. And that's
When we
been
was
a fun journey with you over the last couple of days.
Yeah. We were speaking the other day about dissolving. The image that came to mind
Yeah.
was a glass of Enos. So sticking
Yes.
in that, taking that belief that's sitting right at the bottom of the iceberg, because we are again right in that space of the iceberg, right underneath the bottom that we don't see. That's such a subconscious part of who we are. But it's like sticking it into a glass of water with Enos and dissolving it, going, okay, you no longer serve me. So that's one of the things that. But I think as you were
Yeah.
talking, one of the things that I really enjoy, and I've got a sneeze coming on board, so bear with me. But yeah, well, this is us. We do this informally, and the subject matter is serious, but the
Yeah.
energy and the vibration that we are hoping to put across to everybody is one of joy, of lightness, of being, of some fun, because we can get pretty serious in this self-improvement, self-development stuff. But one of the things that I wanted to say is that I enjoy so much working with you is that so often we'll pick up the phone and almost within a couple of minutes of each other had exactly the same thought. And that for me is the fun of the dancing, and how the dancing is really starting to make itself manifest. So, yeah, before we get back to conversations that matter, because I will do a matter, not matter. I've got that. God, it's going to stick. You do
I love
know
it.
this. Before
Yeah,
we
I
get to
like it.
mind notes, I know you would. Before we get to mind, maybe that's what we should actually call our slot, is conversations that matter instead
Mutter.
of
Yeah,
conversations that
I like
matter. It's
that.
very
Yeah,
cool. So do
I do
I.
like it.
And yeah, so we're going to give you some direct access to some of the matter. I just want to support you in the sense that, and I think this is where the symbiosis between what we do, getting serious for a minute, is that it's always been that inside out journey for me. A long time ago, I came across a book called Leadership from the Inside Out by Kevin Cashman. And that was one of the
Yeah.
kind of seminal works that really, I've always been an introvert or introspector as opposed to an introvert. Always
Yeah.
done it my whole life. Um, and it's the whole question of self-awareness being so key to who we are. And it's having the conversations that matter with the mutter in our heads that we
Yeah.
have about ourselves, let alone the conversations that matter and that mind matter that comes in from outside of us. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, the only person that we're responsible for is ourselves. We choose what we take on. Choices has been a big part of my life, as you know, over many, well, about 5, 6, 7 years now. Um, and I'm seeing a whole new different dimension to what the precept and what the concept of choice actually is about. And so when we come back to start talking about mind matter and where it's coming from, is that we still get to choose. We choose those beliefs. I am not in a position anymore where I can blame anybody else for the belief that I've chosen. It's convenient. It really is convenient to externalize it and place it onto somebody else. And if I'm doing that, I'm certainly not taking responsibility for myself. And that really does take us right to the bottom of that iceberg and some of the amazing work that you've been doing in the pyramid that you've been building. And it's not a case of semantics, it's a case of energies. You can see I'm going to the bottom of an iceberg, which is water and emotion, and John's building a pyramid, which is earth. And it's the two energies come together. So it's not about the fact that they're disparate at all. It's different metaphors, it's different energy. It comes down to the same process and the same premise, but the
Yes.
manner in which it manifests is different. And we need to know both, because the one is the masculine form. How's that for something that's just going on in my head right now? The one is the
Love it.
way that the masculine form shows up, and the other one is the way in which the feminine shows up. So when we
Yeah.
talk about, and when John and I are languaging, we're talking about the same thing, but from two halves of a whole, the one being the masculine and the other being the feminine. You may identify more with what John is saying from a masculine point of view, or with the feminine, or with both. And the idea to bring both sides of ourselves into unity is to actually identify both. Comments on that, because that was Kalaka. Yum, boom, light bulb went on.
Love it. I definitely think, in terms of the comparative or symbiotic, it's going together. I want to use, one of your favorite comments when we are having conversations on the phone is that it's not either or, it's the and. And as much as I do like the structures and being grounded and all the rest of it, there is the feminine energy in terms of the intuition, uh, bringing the understanding, establishing the identity is critical. I do like the behaviors, the skills that go with it, but I also recognize the fact that it's coming from within, it's coming from the identity. It's based in values and beliefs.
Yep. And
That
yeah,
is technically the higher harmonic there, and we want to make sure that it's a sustainable thing, or in order to make sure it's a sustainable thing, you want it to come out of the identity. If it's born out of
you
the
know what?
identity, it
Yeah, and
comes
what's
easy.
key for me in terms of what you're saying, so I keep it kind of, because this I'm getting sparkies going on in my head.
Yeah, yeah,
What's key
good.
for me is that with what you've said, it's really around, and this is one of the key conversations that matter for me, that is really crucial, is that it changes the face of how we educate ourselves and how we educate people. All the focus that we have right now, particularly in South Africa, and maybe it's worldwide trend, but especially it probably is in the UK, probably in Australia, because the South African education system is based on that. Any
On the
system
Australia.
based on the Prussian production line
Yeah,
type of education is
yep,
focusing purely on behavior. And
yes,
far more crucial at shifting and creating transformation and change is that higher harmonic. And they are skills. They're just not skills that you would attribute to exam or a physical test or
mm,
like the multiple. I mean, yeah, you can check knowledge with multiple choice, but knowledge checks and rote learning doesn't create transformation and change. And if we are wanting, as we, so many people have overused this quote, but if we are wanting to be the change that we want to see in the world, That change needs to happen right at the bottom of that iceberg at a level of consciousness and belief. Tell me, in terms of the pyramid, what is the corresponding step of the pyramid in terms of belief? I know you've got a term for it.
Yeah, also it's also beliefs. We combine it with values, so it's beliefs and values. The one lower than that is based on so that level stands on identity. So it is everything is rooted and grounded in the identity, and then I say rooted and grounded in identity. Yours for the iceberg, it's also identity. I'm assuming
More consciousness sitting underneath beliefs and values.
consciousness.
But that identity, and I know that the way that you talk about identity too, because we've spoken about this, is that it's that identity and alignment with our higher self. Whether that we
Yes,
choose to call that God, whether we call that universe, whether we call that
yes,
cosmic consciousness, whether we call it anything higher power, whatever, something that is bigger than us, that shows us that we are interconnected to all that is, whether
yeah,
it's the I am, whatever label anybody wants to put on it. Because I think what's also important for the work that we embark on is that we are not embracing or going, against. It's not a cultural, a religion, a cult, a ageism, any of those isms and obias. So whatever that hook is that you want to put that level of identity and consciousness on, it is about aligning our higher self and our higher natures to all that is, to that sense of interconnection. And I think this is where we're having so much fun, is because we're starting to see the interconnection between what we're doing, as opposed to it's mine and I'm in competition with you. And I mean, we have a couple of laughs around comparing. When I say comparing, I'm saying loosely comparing where you're at and where I'm at, and I'm kind of further on this piece, you're further on that piece, and as in our humanness. And I think Shannon O'Hara from Access Consciousness calls it our humanoidism. It's kind of sometimes we just have to be reminded of,
yeah,
yeah, we're stepping back into that lower energy and that lower vibration, the lower
yeah,
harmonic. And that's the lower harmonic, very easy to label, is the ego.
yeah,
And if we're looking to build a future for the next 7 generations, and if we're looking to build a future that is sustainable for ourselves, our children, our children's children, we should certainly need to shift that level of ego consciousness into that higher sense of being. And on a
yeah,
spiritual realm, spiritual level, people are terming it 5D and 3D. In the work that we do with choices and the work that you're doing, we're dealing with empowerment versus entitlement. We're talking about taking
yeah,
personal responsibility and accountability, which is a skill, albeit that
yeah.
it's a so-called, I hate this word. I hate this word, a so-called soft skill. Hate it. It's
I hate it.
probably one of the most critical
Annoying.
spiritual principles upon
Yeah,
which we need to build ourselves and build our lives.
yeah.
And it's a tough, I keep on nodding off to the wrong side of the screen. I feel like I'm on a ship.
All of the pages now.
Yeah. It's
It's quite
around
bizarre.
really, yeah, no, it is. It's absolutely quite funny. But it really is around how we are choosing to
Yeah,
empower ourselves, especially coming out of the reality of what our last 2 years have been. And this is not a COVID, blah, 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 it's a COVID for many, and for those people who are and have been searching, has been a reframe, a reshift. And my
mm,
favorite analogy is the Messi of the caterpillar. It's not the butterfly. It's the Messi of the shape shifting we're all needing to do. So one of the things around personal responsibility, and I'm going to bounce it back to you, is that I'm personally responsible for shedding all that stuff that doesn't serve me. It's not about what other people have done to me. It's about the teaching and the lesson that they're reflecting to me to learn and grow from. Have I made mistakes? Oh, without question. Am I going to continue to make mistakes? Even more without question. But it's acknowledging that humanness, that vulnerability that we have to get to play, to get to start to get curious again around what the world has to offer. So tell us a little bit about the positive side of mind Mutter, because it's not just the negative side of the mind Mutter. It's
no,
about the
a lot of
reprogramming.
people. Yeah, a lot of people look at mind matter as a negative
I'm,
thing because I think.
and I'm slurping, just by the way. I'm having a slurp.
You're welcome. Tea break. Just announce it and do it. A lot of people, I think, their experience with mind matter is definitely a negative thing. And the experience I have is a lot of people want to shout at it, shut up and keep quiet, and lay hands on and cast it out and as a demon and all kinds of strange stuff. So the reality is that mind matter is part of our internal system, and it is a very powerful system that what it does is it goes and picks up our identity statements that are charged with emotions and just literally utters it out all the time, because that is a mechanism in this earth to bring from the spirit realm and manifest it on the physical, is
Yep.
that constant affirmation, constant confession. And unfortunately for most people, their mind matter has been left unchecked. So for a lot of them, it's negative stuff that's being spewed out. And what I'm loving about the direct access stuff is that it's literally, let's get to those birthing points. Where did that statement come from? Yes, it's an identity. Yes, there was an emotion. Let's go and find it, dissolve it, and replace it with something that's going to be beneficial to you. So the effect is radically quick. It is so insanely quick. In saying that, a lot of people say, "Oh, John, it takes a while for the reality to manifest in my surroundings." Yeah, it does. If you can get mind matter, um, doing the affirmations, articulating the stuff that you actually want from life, joy, peace, harmony, glory. Uh, if you can get it uttering those things, the speed at which they will manifest in your life is
Yep.
going to be really, really quick. Because if we don't do that, we're going to get stuck in habits.
Yep.
And this is the plague of personal development, is people come on course, we have the rah-rah moments, and they leave and they go back
Yep.
to the old
Yep. Yep.
habits. So while they're on the high of the course, oh, it's all fun and it's easy to do, that joy is quickly replaced by
Yep.
the habits. Where mind matter is literally, it's just cementing those change aspects, and making sure in terms of the affirmation that it gets duplicated, replicated in our lives. And
So I've
that's
got a
for
new I've got a new byline for you.
yeah.
And it's the two pieces coming together again. Mind matter that matters.
Yeah, mind matter that matters. And this is the importance about what you are doing, I think, Angela, is I think people, we don't recognize the fact, and we've done this between ourselves, is we'll say something which is contrary to what we want to achieve. And we don't recognize it. We're the fish breathing the water and we don't recognize it. And standing in for each other, calling each other on it, and saying, you know what, that's actually not going to serve you, is one part of the way of changing that narrative that we've got in the mind matter. And
Yeah.
that's the value of these conversations that matter, is it's showing up and saying to people, yeah,
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
look in the mirror. Are you happy with these outcomes? Are you happy with these results? For the top of your iceberg, what's showing
Yeah.
above the surface of
Yeah.
the water is
Absolutely.
behavior. But
Yeah.
it's not just behavior, it's all the
No.
stuff underneath that's generating that behavior. Those are the conversations that matter, so that we can get the behavior that we want. How do we
And I
make
think,
that
yeah.
sustainable?
And I think again, for me is when we start looking at the education system and how we teach people, is that I started off with that model, the Iceberg model, which originally came from Freud. We've
Yeah,
added a couple of components into it, so it's
yeah,
not plagiarizing anything. But always starting with that conversation around, what are you happy with the results that you're achieving in your life?
exactly.
And if you're not, okay, where are you going to change? Because behavioral change, ask anybody who tries to give up smoking. If you're just trying to do
Exactly.
a behavioral change, it ain't going to happen until there's a consciousness shift and a value shift, either around health or around whatever it is, until it's that deep underneath, underlying piece of the iceberg, until that actually happens, you'll
Yeah,
never give up smoking, not lose weight. You'll go from one diet to another diet to another diet.
yeah,
And it all comes back to, for me, what you're saying, we work a lot, both you and I, with the I am,
yeah,
because the I am is about our identity, and
yeah,
everybody gets to choose. You get to choose
yeah,
what your I am statements are. I'm a failure. Well, hello, guess what you're going to get? More failure. And then you're
yeah,
going to get
exactly.
more of that noise going on in your head. where
And you
I
get
am
that failure easily because it's been born out of the identity.
absolutely,
Go back to your smoking
absolutely,
analogy.
yeah,
Smoking for smokers is easy because it's part of the identity.
yeah.
So we have failure. It's easy.
So
But
the
let's
I
turn
am
that.
is, I am a work in progress is a far more powerful I am statement
Yeah.
than I'm a failure. And with that comes things like self acceptance,
Yeah.
self love, which is the softer feminine side coming in.
Yeah.
Because and this is part of the journey that I've been on, and part of this incredible shedding that's been going on for about 18 months now, is that it comes to a point where I can embrace and love both parts of me, light and shadow. We like
Yeah.
to reject the shadow because it's fed by the Mutter from outside, and that identity that we formed,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
anything that is negative or perceived to be negative is wrong.
Yeah.
Anything that is negative has a judgment attached to it.
Yeah.
Anything, and that choice to internalize it, whether it's a conscious choice or not, is irrelevant. It's not about blaming anybody. It's
Yeah.
about recognizing and being self-aware enough to know that that has formed part of my identity, and
Yeah.
only I can change that. Nobody else can. And
Yeah.
so these conversations that matter, here we go. These conversations that matter are also a call out to those who want to be the hero and heroine in their own lives, who want to embark on the hero's journey, who want to embrace what it is that's coming up for them in terms of those beliefs that are no longer going to serve them, because they're not going to serve people anymore. And so we'd love to hear comments. I don't know, John and I have been rambling. We haven't been asking people for comments as to what you think, because we've just been on a roll. It's been amazing. We would love to hear your comments in terms of what it is that you think about what we've imparted to you today. What do you think about having these conversations? What kind of subject matter would you like to see us engaging with you on? Because John and I are going to be doing this. What did we say? Once a week? Did we say once a week?
Once a week. Yeah.
Once a week on Thursdays, 10:30 every week, provided we're not busy teaching and training. And I have to do a plug. John is running. It's next week. I hope it's not on freaking Thursday, 24th. I hope
It
it's
is.
not.
It is Thursday. I'll make time for this though.
Or maybe what we can do is we can do a live from your, we'll do a stream live
That
from your
would
course.
be awesome.
Yeah, so John is going to be doing a month, and we can actually pull in one or two of your delegates as well, because we can go up to
It'll be fun.
6 without having to be licensed. Okay, so that's quite cool.
Yeah.
So, what I was going to say to you is that, or to people who are listening, John's doing a Mount Mutter workshop next week. Don't expect a fat big workbook, because you're not going to get one.
You're not gonna get.
Show up with your Mount Mutter,
Yeah.
and for those people that are in Middleburg, it would be awesome that for the day that we actually get to do this as a hybrid, where you can actually be streaming it at the same time as teaching it
Yeah.
face to face. That's
That
on the
would be awesome.
cards. That'll
Yeah.
be on the cards. But if you're in Middleburg or in the surrounding areas, even if you're in Nelspruit, it's worth the trip from from Nelspruit to Middleburg and Witbank to Middleburg to go and join John on his Mind Matter, Mind Matter workshop next week. And yeah, to just keep following what we're doing. John's also, I'm in the process of kind of clearing up some of the clutter that needs to be cleared, things like finances and admin and all that stuff that has to get done. Tax year end looming. But John's also in the process of putting up his first book on Kindle, first ebook and paperback on Kindle. Soon to be followed by some of the stuff that I'm going to be putting up as well. So just keep an ear out and an eye out for what we're up to, because we're having a whole lot of fun, and we'd love to invite you to get onto this. What are we going to call it, John? A roller coaster? Because it is up and down sometimes, but it's a heap of fun.
It is.
Um,
Yeah.
and to join us in this journey and embark on the path of the hero and the heroine. And yeah, tell us what you'd like to hear from us. John, any final words? Because we're coming up to half an hour. We didn't want to go longer than
I
half an hour.
think. Yeah. I think these conversations that matter do matter. I think they're important. I think it's a great way to look at yourself, hold up a mirror, get a little bit introspective, and find the pain points that are in your life that you want to change, that will give you results that you're really looking for. So
So
should
what Mind
Ainsley
Mutter's
wait
doing,
for a
he has
week?
another.
Okay.
I keep interrupting you, but I'm sorry. I have to give this to you because it's part of what you're doing. So to get direct access to the Mind Matter that you want to change, you need to be at Mind Matter next week. And you also need to be
Absolutely.
following us on the conversations that matter. So I'm sorry I overtalked you again, but I
That's
just
all good.
direct access to Mind Matter. There's your tagline.
Yeah, direct access to my Mutter. I like it. I'll be using it. Thank you.
That's what I'm good at, eh? Taglines. Very good at that.
Yep,
Okay. So from
it's
me,
fun.
John, sorry, I overtalked you. Did you want to finish off what you were saying?
No, that was it.
We complete for today.
Hmm.
So, yeah, join us again next week, Thursday, and keep an eye
Awesome.
out on Facebook feeds, Twitter. John's great on Twitter. Keep a lookout for us on, we'll post something to Instagram. What else? Where else are we putting this stuff?
YouTube.
YouTube, yeah, YouTube as well. Keep an eye on the lookout for us and come and join in the party. Come and have some fun. Because personal development and self improvement doesn't have to be painful, it can be a whole heap of fun. So, yeah, and one of my other favorite sayings, the only way through it is through it. So, if you want to get to having positive, empowered conversations that matter with yourself, you want to get to heal that mind matter that's going around in your head, you need to be on this journey with us. So, thanks for being with us today on our very first direct access conversations that matter. Love and light, divinely, authentically me. John,
Peace. Have fun.
you're so
Thank you for tuning into Living Truth. Our goal is to carry a message of purpose and meaning to those who are seeking to be, do, and have a full, joyous, happy, and abundant life. If you know of any dreamers, truth seekers, visionaries, light workers, and wisdom keepers who would benefit from our content, please feel free to share our material with them. We would appreciate your time in leaving us a 5-star review on this channel. And visit us on www.angelajames.co.za and John Asher on www.mindmattermatters.com.